Let's go to Nikki in Chi-Town in Chicago. What up, Nikki?
Hi.
What's up?
Not much. I'm excited to get to talk to you and get your perspective on some situations that I'm going with right now.
Very cool. Thanks for your trust. I'm grateful for you. What's up?
Thanks. So I am dealing with a little bit of animosity and resentment towards my new husband's ex-wife. And I was kind of hoping to get your perspective on how to just cope with that.
Wow. Okay. Tell me about it.
So my husband and I have been together for 2 years and married for 2 months. And between the two of us, we have 5 daughters. So we are in a
5 daughters?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, have your husband call the show. I just want to hug him.
Yeah, he's amazing. Actually, he met you a few years back during the Entre Leadership Summit. So he told me to tell his old friend John hi.
Hello. And he didn't lead with, hey, there's 6 women in my house. At least get him a boy dog or something. All right. So
we have a boy dog. He insists that the animals are male. So he's covered.
I support that, man. I support that. Yeah. All right. So he's got an ex-wife. Y'all been married just a couple of months. Tell me about it. 5 daughters.
Yeah, 5 daughters. So a couple of years ago when I came into the situation, him and his ex-wife were co-parenting, I think a little too well. They were still doing like family things together. And so when I came in, I was like, yeah, that's going to change. I'm not comfortable with like Christmas at your ex-wife's house. So things have slowly kind of
why?
The boundary lines.
Why are you uncomfortable with that? And I'm not saying you shouldn't be. Why?
I think the issue for me was his co-parenting situation was polar opposite of my co-parenting situation. My ex-husband's bipolar, and it's really hard to manage. And I've been on my own. Even when we were married, since the kids were born, I was basically a married single mom.
Okay.
And so coming from that situation into his situation where they still do like pumpkin patch picking together, but she's in a relationship and he's in a relationship, it was just uncomfortable.
So that you landed there, and I'm so glad you got there. It sounds like they have figured out a way to be divorced, to move on with their lives, and still be adults for their kids.
Yes.
And possibly enmeshed, possibly is still too weird. That would be a whole other conversation with them too, just to listen to how they've arrived at where they've arrived. But the number of people I talk to across the country who cannot, or most people end up in your situation. I cannot get my ex to do anything remotely like an adult, or they're struggling with mental health issues, or they've just disappeared or whatever. What is it? Are you jealous of her? And it's okay if you are. Just be honest. Are you jealous of her? Are you jealous of their former relationship? Or do you love him? And you're like, there's that weird gnawing feeling that he had a thing with her once? Like, what is it?
There's definitely jealousy underlying there. But where we're landed at today is the relationship has dissolved and there's no more co-parenting, and it's very her side, our side. Okay. And she's starting to be very childish and being friends with the kids instead of being a team with us. And I think that I would assume on her part that is because, there are issues there with me.
Well, you broke up their team. You said this team can't play like this anymore. Not with me in the picture.
Yeah.
And so the team, she's going to feel like he decided that their co-parenting arrangement was no good and he picked you over her.
Yeah.
And
so part of the jealousy issue was because when we first met, he told me early on that 2 months before he met me, she wanted him back and he had said no.
Okay.
So then I was increasingly more uncomfortable, doing anything with
her.
So
let's clear this up. They are linked forever.
Right.
And by marrying him, you have to deal with her.
Yeah.
And so you can fight that forever, or you can make peace in your soul. And here's the deal. If he goes back to her one day, let's say that happened. It's not going to, but let's say it did.
Mm-hmm.
Your paranoia and frustration and jealousy and anger, and I don't like that, none of that will help that. It will only accelerate it.
I think that's where we've landed, is the things that she has done from the beginning are wrong and offensive, and I have every right to be mad. But where I'm kind of realizing is
like
that,
what? Like what?
Like when we first got together, she did a background check on me, and
absolutely, I would do the same thing.
I'm in.
I would do the same thing. I want to know who's in the lives of my kids. Absolutely. I don't think that's weird at all. If she hid it from you and lied about it, okay. But you have to understand, you're like, you know what I mean? Would you trust some strange woman with your kids? Like, you'd want to know, right?
Yes, but I don't think she needed to share my debt. Like, that was her digging because she knows he's big into Dave Ramsey and big on debt free.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay, yeah. So she handled that immaturely.
Yeah.
But why are you giving her rent-free space in your head?
Yeah, that's what my husband keeps at. He says, like, I don't understand how you could be so stuck on something that happened 2 years ago. And it's like, well, it's because she's kind of like a trigger at this point. And
no, you're allowing her to. Why? Why are you giving her this power? What is it about her? Is she beautiful? Is she rich? Is she wonderful? I mean, what is it? When you hold her up, you see yourself as less than. Why?
I don't necessarily see myself as less than. I just feel like there's things in the situation that I can't control.
Yes. And you can't control her deciding to be friends with her kids.
No. And I can't control her, like, teaching the kid, like, we're to a point where the children see every single thing their mom does is correct and every single thing their dad does is wrong.
Great.
And
that's a season, and that will shift. And then one day it will be everything dad does is the best ever, and you're their best friend and mom's the worst. Like, it's not a competition at this point. We're trying to raise well kids who have grown up in trauma and have a very confusing childhood between whatever 1, 2, 3 years led to a divorce, and then this weird, we're still kind of a family, but not really. And then mom's with somebody else, and then, suddenly dad's with somebody else. Like, that's trauma for kids.
Right.
And so if they connect with a parent, that's normal. They're going to do that. Trying to fight that or be frustrated by that is you comparing yourself. Why don't they like me as much as her? Or why don't they like us as our rules are? But man, that's just throwing angst into an already angsty situation. Can't control it. If she's abusing them, or if she's not following the court orders, or she is putting them in situations where they're not safe, yeah, man, I'm all in on that. But if she just feeds them McDonald's every time, it's frustrating and maddening, and there's going to be a re-entry point every time they come back to your house, right? Or, like, mom doesn't make us do that. I know, but I do. Dad does.
Yeah, it's not necessarily that bad. It's things that we can't control, like her sense of humor with them, in my opinion, is abusive. Like, she calls them a failure and thinks that's funny. And, if they don't perform well at soccer, she's like the mom that's the loudest one there going, "You're not getting any dinner tonight." And it's just like, they know they missed the goal. They, they know these things.
But what can you do about that?
Nothing. That's where my struggle is.
You can keep holding tighter and tighter, or you can let go.
How?
You got to practice that. And the first thing, you got to practice it. But before that, actually, that's the second thing. The first thing is you have to decide to let go. And my guess is being in love with somebody and being connected to somebody and making kids to somebody who had bipolar disorder meant you had to drive everywhere for everything because you couldn't depend on anybody but yourself. And you were every bit his mother as you were his lover. And that probably started way back when you were a little kid. And the control that kept you alive in that relationship, and the control that you had to exert over your life when you were a kid, is what's choking the life out of your current marriage. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we have to say, okay, Justin Verlander was pitching and he throws 1,000,000 miles an hour. So I'm going to have to swing really fast, and I'm going to have to make up my decision quick as he goes into his windup. And then another pitcher is going to come up there and throw a bunch of curveballs. Greg Maddux is going to come up and pitch, and he throws very slow, but he throws all this curve stuff. So I got to be a little more patient. I got to approach this thing differently. And right now, control for you, giving that up, letting go with that, feels like you're exposing yourself to more hurt. Is that fair?
Yeah.
And what I want you just to step back and look at the pictures. It's the control right now that's killing you.
Yeah, I took your ACEs score, and I'm a 7, and my husband's a 1.
Yeah.
So he doesn't get it.
Nope. Your childhood has sucked, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. He can't get it unless you talk to him about it. Have you talked to him about it?
Yeah, a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. He's great.
So here's your practice. Over time, it's feeling your body start to try to grab control of situations that you can't control. And holding your breath for about 4 or 5 seconds as deep as you can. And exhaling and intentionally dropping your shoulders, pulling them down, and opening your hands up. Saying, can't control this one. And this hurts. Here's what I can control. And we're going to go that route. And what we're going to do is just practice this. Is that something you're interested in? I don't think you believe that you're worth a peaceful life.
It's not that I don't believe it. It's just that I just haven't experienced it. So, like, when my husband and I first got together, and we would have conflict, I would, like, feel my body tensing and, like, my fist in the air almost, like, metaphorically, because I was preparing for that fight.
Yeah.
And it never came. So I've slowly, like, I don't have those kind of conflicts with him. We really never fight. When we do, it is always about his ex-wife.
I would suggest, Nikki, you're always at war. Always. He might not know he's fighting. You do.
Yeah, it's pretty fair.
Because an ACEs score of 1 is going to go through life pretty go-lucky.
Yeah.
And, well, that stinks. Let's do this.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're familiar with, like, Enneagram personalities.
Uh-huh.
He's a 9. He's a peacekeeper, and I'm an 8. I'm a fighter. And so
it's always so amazing how y'all find each other. It's so good. It's so good.
So he has this, like, uncanny ability to, like, let things roll off his back, and I, like, keep score.
Well, you've had to, okay? You had to. One of the things I have argued with some of the great leaders in the Enneagram world, I don't believe that those things are innate, that we're just wired for that. I think there's a combination of wiring and experience. You've had to fight. Because if you don't fight with an ACEs score of a 7, you and I aren't talking.
Right.
You're strung out somewhere, or you're in jail, or you're dead, right?
Right.
You've had to fight. You haven't been able to recognize that the fighting that kept you alive is blowing things up right now. Here's the way through it. And for somebody with an ACEs score of 7, if you haven't had trauma counseling, you're probably going to need it. I recommend anybody over a 4 go do that. But the only way through it, the only way to heal is to go directly through it. That's the only path forward. You want to do something crazy? Call his ex-wife and say you want to go to breakfast.
I've suggested that. So, and that was actually one of our arguments, because early on I was like, why don't we just go to dinner and, like, have a sit down and kind of map this thing out with the 4 adults, in the room. And he was like, no. And then his ex-wife suggested it, and he's like, I think we should do this.
Okay. And I'm like, hold on. Oh, geez. So the way you just said that, clearly he listens to her more than you. He's still in love with her more than you. I'm just B team. And the way I hear that is when you suggested it, he was like, "Oh, honey, I'm not taking you to war. I don't want to fight." And then when she said she was into it, he was like, "Okay, maybe this would work out." But
that's exactly what he said.
I hear that as a husband trying to protect his new wife, who's a little bit anarchist, and realizing that we could probably make this thing happen. I don't think you should go with him the first time. I think you should go just you two grown women, and you start the whole conversation with, "I have completely screwed this up." Try there. And the silence is deafening right now. It's so good. Because I'm you're processing. Like, to hell with that. I ain't saying that to that crazy. Listen, if you walked in and said, "I screwed this up. I'm jealous of your marriage. I come from abuse. I was married to somebody with bipolar disorder. I've just been in chaotic relationships, and I just started trying to control everything. And I recognize I love him. And I love those girls. And by loving him and loving those girls, that means I'm going to be a part of your life forever. And so I want to restart." If you went in with that attitude, she would probably have to pick her jaw up off the floor. And you pay for the meal. And you also, by the way, have your shoulders down the whole time. You're just like consciously pulling them down. And you're just kind. The word for that is the Brené Brown special. It's vulnerable. She could roast you. She could burn a hole through you with that sort of vulnerability. She admitted it. She admitted she's the one who's been screwing up. She could. Yeah. Or y'all could get to some relational ground that y'all are never going to get to unless one of you acts like an adult and just takes a knee. And
yeah, that's kind of where I'm struggling, is because
why? Look, what has worked over the last 2 years? Nothing. It's just getting worse. Isn't it?
It is. It is. It is.
So stop fighting. That's clearly not working. It's not working. If you were a doctor, you would have fired yourself because this medicine isn't working. Would you just try it and see what happens?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I definitely want, more than anything, to just have like inner peace and stop being at conflict with the whole situation.
You are going to you got to get a counselor. Here's why. Your body is going to have to practice peace because it's never had it. It's a unicorn right now. It's like a mythological place. You've never experienced it. And you want it, but you don't even know what it is. You don't even know what it feels like. And you're going to have to practice it. And you're going to have to get somebody to walk with you. And when did your abuse start?
You mean as a child or with my marriage?
As a child.
It's never been from day one. Like, it's never been great.
Okay. You're surrounded by 5 girls. Your body's alarm systems are going to ring off the freaking hook, right?
Yeah.
Because it remembers that story of what happens when you're a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
And so your job as the adult, as the parent of 5 little girls, is to go do the work to heal those alarms and redirect them. Because you don't want to pass that trauma to them. You want them to be aware and smart and bright and able to read a room and able to keep themselves safe. All those things are good. But you can't do those things when your body's under threat because it just says, get out of here.
Right. And I don't want them to feel like they have to choose.
That's right. So that healing isn't something you tell them. It's something you do for you, and they absorb it. They feel it.
Right.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
The only thing in this whole situation the only person you can change is you. That's it. And it's just asking yourself, is this working? And you and I both, it's not. It's not.
No.
It's not. And so I'm just suggesting try something completely different. If you take her to breakfast and it just goes off the rails, just off the rails. You'll have learned something, right?
Right.
You can say, I tried that didn't work. that was not good. I called some podcaster and he's an idiot. I will announce to everyone who listens. Nikki called me back and said she went on that breakfast and her husband's ex just ruined everything. It was a disaster. I'll put that out to the world. That's fair. I don't think that will happen. Maybe it will, but I don't think it will. And I'm not saying y'all are going to be best friends. You're not. Y'all aren't going to be best friends. You're not going to call each other and be like, "Do you want to go get pedicures?" That's not going to happen. I'm not going to go hang out at TJ Maxx. Do people shop, Kelly, at TJ Maxx? I don't know. No. Kelly's more of a Carhartt gal. I don't know where people go shopping. I'm just saying you're not going to be shopping partners. But you are going to have to learn how to do life together. You're going to have to figure this out. And it's just being an adult. It's putting away the immediate, putting away the hard stuff for the things that are right, the things that are best long term. Hang on the line here, Nikki. I'm going to send you a copy of my book. I want you to read it from start to finish. It's about dealing with trauma. It's called Own Your Past, Change Your Future. Hang on the line here. I'm going to send you a free copy. Please reach out to a counselor in your community and say, I'm ready. I had a rough go of it. I've got a marriage worth hanging on to now. I've met a guy that's good. I've got 5 kids that I'm wrestling with. I've got a blended family that I've now entered into, and I want to do this right. And I deserve to be well. I deserve peace. I'm going to start there. Thank you for being brave, Nikki. I'm grateful for you. Let me know how that breakfast goes.